Hello everyone, my name is Kadambari Deshmukh. I'm teaching in Wockhardt Global School, Aurangabad, and today's my webinar topic is importance of phonics. So I would like to share quickly on that. Importance of phonics. Phonics is important for children to learn the sound of each letter. Phonics will help you to read, write and spell letters. So when you learn phonic, it will help you to decode letters and letter combination. Learning phonic makes uh, makes easier pronouncing words. So let take an example of a word, and I'm explaining you how you can use phonic to pronounce it. The word is short. If someone hasn't learned phonic, he or she will think it's short or hot, but actually it is short. This is how you can use phonic to pronounce any letter or letter combination. And now let's see how is phonic important in early years. Why is phonic important in early years? Children need to learn phonic in early years to study the basic of English. If children begin with learning phonic ahead, they can become a good speller, writer, or a reader. Why is phonic important for child, for kids? Phonic is important for kids to know the sound of each letter because English uses alphabets to produce sounds. When the kids will grow up, they will able to read and write. So, and the next is benefit of phonics. Benefit of phonics, as you can see, the child is reading the books all because he is he is having a good understanding about phonics, and like reading exercises our brains. Reading improves our concentration and uh, patience. Our reading skill will get better by phonic, and phonic makes reading easier. As you can see in the next slide, does phonic really work so well? Research shows that phonic is the most effective way to teach children how to read. By using phonic, almost every child can become independent leader. As you can see in this image, uh, letter forms sounds, sound forms words, words form sentences, and sentences form stories. And even stories forms meaning, and meaning form reading. All this is because of phonic. And there are many questions about what is the purpose of phonic. The prime focus of phonic instruction is to help beginning readers understand how letters are linked to sound, to form letter sound coordination and spelling patterns, to help them learn how to apply this in their reading. There are many questions from parents' side. At what age we should start teaching children phonics? The research shows that children are ready to start phonic program when they have learned to identify all the letters of the alphabet, which is usually somewhere between 2 to 3 years of age. And you can start as soon as they started recognizing letters with sound. So other questions are like, what is the best way to teach phonics? The best way to teach phonics is word building. So word building is the best way to teach reading and spelling. Like I can give you one example. You can play with your kids. Like you can write a letter on the card and ask the child to build CVC, that is consonant vowel consonant word with the child. So, for example, like mat, like when we write the spelling, it is mat, mat. The same way, at, cat. Okay. This way children can clearly see how letters spell sound and how those sounds can be blended into words. And also it includes spelling as a part of their reading lesson. Even there are some of the different phonic programs available, Jolly Phonic and Floppy Phonic. I'll give you a little bit of description about the Floppy Phonic and Jolly Phonic. So Jolly Phonic is a fun and child-centered approach to teaching literacy through synthetic phonic with sound or each of 42 letter sound. The sensory method is very motivating for them. And about for floppy phonic is a vigorous and easy to use systematic and synthetic phonic teaching program for early years and writing success. There are some planning, guidance, and assessment materials your consisting teaching and carefully monitoring of children for children's progress. So I would like to share one video with you.
Hello, my name is Ruth Miskin. After being a head teacher for many years, I set up an organisation that trains teachers to teach children to read quickly and successfully. It's the most important thing that children must learn to do at school. You see, children who learn to read easily tend to be the children who choose to read a lot. And children who read a lot are more likely to be successful at school than those who don't. Now, synthetic phonics is the quick route there. So what is synthetic phonics? When your child is learning to read, there are two crucial things to learn. Sounds are represented by written letters, and how to blend the sounds to make words. We use 44 sounds to speak all the words in English. For example, I am, speak, itten, itten, sound, z. Ike, atten, speak, like, it's all day. Now, unfortunately, for children learning to read in English, we have only got 26 letters for all of those 44 sounds, and this means that we run out of letters pretty quickly. Spanish children, on the other hand, have a much easier time of it. They have 24 sounds to learn and have just one letter for each of those sounds. Now, in English, we have to make do with using pairs of letters to represent many of those sounds. However, in most schools, children start with just one way to read and write each sound. So for the sound they're going to learn to read the letter m. For the sound a, they're going to read the letter a. Now, it's only when they have mastered this simple code that they are taught the alternative versions of the same sound. Once children can read the sounds, they are taught to read the words by blending. And this is called synthesizing the sounds together to make a word. So, for example, I would want to make sure the child could read and a and t. And I'd want to make sure they could read those sounds really quickly, at. And then we'll get the children to blend the word, which is at, mat. At school, you will probably hear teachers talking about blending, but you might also hear them refer to this as sounding out, or in my schools, I call it Fred talk. All of these terms focus on the same point, synthesizing sounds together to make words. In nursery and reception, your child will learn to do this using lively and fun teaching. And so by the end of year one, all children will be able to read simple words like op, shop, splash, splash, green, a play. And many will be able to read much longer words too. Now, fortunately, there is soon going to be a simple phonic check at the end of year one, just to make sure that there are no children who slip through the net. And if any do, the school will be expected to work hard with your children until they can read words by sound blending. So what top tips can I give you? Right, tip 1, saying sounds correctly. This is really important when you're helping your child learn the sounds. Just remember not to add an at the end of the consonant sound. So say not ma, not la. Because then later it's easier to blend the sounds together to make the words. For example, if you say m, a, t, it's really hard for the child to say mat. But if you go at, it's so much easier to put those sounds together to say mat. If you're not sure how to say the sounds, then you can use the Say the Sounds section on this website to practice. Right, second tip, help your child to match the sounds to the letters. Show your child the link between the sound and the written letter shape. For example, if I'm teaching the sound I use a picture of Maisie standing in front of the mountains to help the children remember that underneath Maisie in the mountains they've got the shape, and on the other side we've got the letter. Likewise with the D, I'll show them the dinosaur, the dinosaur that's standing in front of the letter D, and on this side we've got D. This side dinosaur, this side D. Tip number 3, 2 letters, 1 sound. Some sounds are represented with 2 letters. We say 2 letters, 1 sound. So here we've got the sh, 2 letters, 1 sound. In the word sh, it. Here we've got, again, 2 letters, 1 sound. Ch, in the word ch, I, n. And what would be great is when you're out and about with your children, and if you could point to signs and posters where you can see examples of these 2 letters, 1 sound. Right, tip number 4, practice, practice, practice. Build up a knowledge of the letters and sounds quite quickly with your child and keep practicing so that it becomes really automatic. You know, like this. Get your child to be able to read them at this sort of speed. G, l, n, h, e, f, x, y, z, and even more quickly if you can. Okay, tip number 5. We want to help children to put sounds together to read simple words. Now, the first thing we want to make sure is that the children can read the sounds really quickly first, as I've just said. So we've got s and I and t before you even think about sound blending. That's really important. And then I practice saying the sounds in the word with the child like this. S, I, t, and get them to repeat. S, it. Then I show the child how I put those sounds together. Sit. Let's say sit. And then say it in sounds again. S, it. And I say to the child, so what sounds am I going to put out here then? And hopefully the child will say s, it. It really helps if the child makes that, constructs that word for themselves the first time. And then I'm going to get the child to read the word by going s, it, sit, s, it, sit. And then modelling the cards up again. Child puts it out again on his own. S, it, sit. And practice saying that. The important thing is to keep saying it and keep rebuilding it so they see that those letters together make that one word sit. And you practice that with lots of different words. Tip 6, tricky words. Some everyday words in English have tricky spellings and can't be read easily by blending. Imagine trying to read the word said, s-e-d, or does, d-a-z. What you see doesn't match the sounds that you're saying. These are called high frequency tricky words, or I call these red words, and that means you've got to be on red alert when you see these. These words just have to be learnt by sight and flashcard type speed games. These are a really good way to practice them. Tip 7, reading books. Schools using good synthetic phonics programs send home decodable books like this one. These books contain mostly words that children can read by sounding out. This gets them off to a really good start because they can read them independently. Now, for example, when a child reads this book for the first time, they'll use sound blending to work out many of the words like this. L, et, let. There's a red word, me. Let, me, cross, cross. Said, il, Billy, the, k, id. It'll be really slow. Now, the second time, you're going to help them read it a little bit more speedily so they can read it, let me cross, said Billy the kid. And you'll also start talking about what does this cross mean? Let me cross. What's happening here is that Billy the kid is crossing the bridge. Let me cross, said Billy the kid. So you're combining the sound blending with the meaning of the passage. Now, on the third time that you read the page, you want the children to read it with lots of enthusiasm so they can develop what we call a storyteller voice. Let me cross, said Billy the kid. Let me get a fat red plum. So you might encourage your child to have a sort of pleading voice. Please let me across this bridge. Let me cross, said Billy the kid. Let me get a fat red plum. So a good decodable book has got a good story as well, so the child will want to read it over and over again until he can read it, really read it, and that's important. Tip 8, using pictures. Pictures are great when you are sharing and talking about a picture book. But don't encourage your child to use pictures to guess words when they're reading their little decodable books. Now, can I just give you an example here? If a child's reading, let me get a fat red, and they come across this word here, plum, we want them to work that word out by the sounds. What we don't want them to do is to stop and say, oh, let's look to see if there's a picture to help us. Oh, look, there's some plums on the picture here. Can we see the plum? Ah, now let's read the word. We don't want them to do that. We want them to go, let me get a fat red plum. Now that's vital because the next time they come across the word plum, they can say, oh, plum, without any picture. Children really do need to be able to decode for themselves independently. That's what's going to make them into real readers. If, however, it's a word outside their phonic range altogether, or it's a totally tricky word that can't be sounded out, which will be unlikely in these books, just tell them the word. Just say, look, it's said, and move on to the next word. Carry on reading. Keep the flow of that story going. Tip 9, writing letters. The most important thing you can do is to help your child read these sounds, but many parents like to teach their children how to write the letters as well. I use pictures to help me. So here I talk about the going round the dinosaur's back and all the way up his neck and all the way down to his feet. And we'll practice writing that round the dinosaur's back, up his neck and down to his feet. Round the dinosaur's back and up his neck and down to his feet, holding your child's hand while you're saying that phrase. And then when he's got that, you'll start going dinosaur, 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 and eventually you'll get to the point when you can just go duh. And don't forget to show your child how to hold a pencil in what we call the tripod grip. If you're not sure how to do this, just pop into your school and your child's teacher will show you how to do this. Tip 10. Read to your child as much as you can. Carry on sharing and reading lots and lots of stories and information books to and with your child. We read their favourite stories over and over again. Children's vocabulary, their syntax, imagination, knowledge of the world grows through you reading and talking with them. And don't forget the praise and hugs. Most importantly, remember that your child will learn much faster with encouragement, praise and hugs.
I have shared some of the links or sources which had helped me to find the research of what is the importance of phonic. And thank you very much for attending my webinar. If you have any question, you can send it in my chat box. Thank you.